All right, and you are ready to go.
Oh, do you want to admit them?
And audio is up.
Do you want to admit them, Jamie? Do you want to admit them into the...
Hi, everybody. Adam's here.
Hello.
Hi, Adam.
Well,
Hello.
We'll try to go fast, and if you have to drop off, drop off.
We understand.
No
Yeah.
worries.
You want me to just start? Okay.
Yes.
Jamie, I'm guessing, could you bring up the agenda
Sure.
Adam, do you have your agenda?
I sure do. Yes.
Never mind, you probably don't have to. So the very first thing that we have on here is just looking at our fiscal year 2024 year to date, so 11 months. The city's year end is March 31st. So I went ahead and pulled the information the other night, all the way through the end of February. So we have 11 months of data here. And I did not put numbers on your guys' agenda. Sorry about that. That would have been helpful. But it's this sheet with the blue banner at the, that I'm talking about. That where you can see the very first column is the actual data where we are to this year to date, and the fiscal year the next column is what our budget was for the year. So first you can see that we've brought in $1.3 million of use tax revenues, and we had a really conservative estimate last year because we've never had a full year of use tax revenue of $720,000. So that means we're $614,000 almost over budget for the year. So that's great. And then we had miscellaneous revenues of $16,000. And what that was is we did a debt issuance. Once we paid all the contractors, the park fund had funded some of the expenses for the pickleball courts. So we reimbursed, the city got reimbursed to complete and close out the bond issuance, the bond proceeds, to reimburse for funds that we had paid just directly from use tax revenues. Does that make sense?
so this is just an influx from the city funds to cover reimbursement for some stuff that we paid for.
Yeah, well, we used use tax money, so it came back to the use tax.
Yeah.
So, and if you were out in the real world doing real accounting, not that governmental accounting is not real, that's not what I mean. It is real, it's just different.
Yeah.
So for governmental accounting, you show, in normal accounting, you would net. So when that money came in, it would reduce the expenses. That's not what you do in governmental accounting. You want to show taxpayers all the inflows that come in, and you want to show them all the funds that you spent, outflows. And so that $16,000 is just shown as a miscellaneous revenue. It's an inflow, even though it offsets some expenses, if that makes sense, for the pickleball courts. And then we have this fund balance amount. This only changes once a year. So we started off the year last year, March 31st at the end of day, April 1st at the beginning of day, with $1,190,121 of cash in the use tax fund. That really is almost all of it was due to the bond proceeds, the debt issuance proceeds. When we got the debt, took out the loan, that we're showing that cash because we had it to spend for the pickleball project, if that makes sense. So that's where that big balance came from. And then so far, year to date, we've spent $33,000 in administrative costs. We've transferred $183,095 to the sidewalk construction fund. We have transferred $504,600 to the park construction fund. And we have spent $630,236.33 in this current fiscal year for pickleball complex construction. We have transferred almost $138,000 to reimburse the general fund for the 2 police officer positions that the use tax is paying for. And we have transferred the general fund almost $61,000 for the salary and benefits for the animal control officer. And then we have paid $138,000 plus a little over that for principal and interest on the debt that we took out for the pickleball complex. And so we have $150,000 of budget still to go to make it through that last month. And we're well over in revenues where we expect it to be.
Do we have technically more budget? I mean, on the transfer to the police, I think the variance calculation there needs tweaked.
So we didn't make the transfer for the month of November because Kathy left in January and that journal entry hasn't been made to do the transfer. What she was doing is transferring the exact amount of payroll and benefits. And when we budget, because we hadn't hired both of those positions, so we take a conservative approach. We're always budgeting for somebody that has family insurance coverage.
No, I'm just saying literally, like it says our budget was 174 and we've only transferred 137, and it's saying that our variance is $1,000.
Oh, yeah, that formula, I see.
Yeah. So then instead of 150K, we'd have like closer to 180.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I get it now. Okay, do you guys have any questions about that?
Not about that, I'm just, your expenditures, what you noticed on here, you know how passionate I'm about the Hall Park.
Yes.
Is that what's under transfer to park construction?
So we have the entire match has been transferred that is sitting in that park construction fund for us to get that grant so that we can, we're ready to go.
We've heard nothing yet on that grant. Wow.
It's not that we haven't heard
Anything,
anything.
okay.
It's that they are very slow, but everything that we've heard, we know we keep advancing to the next rounds. I want to tell you, but I don't know this for sure because I can't remember exactly, but I feel like the last time, like Eric, the last several times has said that we should know in May.
And then, so like on the front here, where we show the Hall Park project current unfunded amount, really it's not $1.4 million, because we've got the
500,000, right.
Yes.
we're just waiting on 500,000 from
Match.
We're waiting on the grant match. Yes,
Right.
exactly right. It's just we haven't actually received it. If we don't get that grant, then it's unfunded.
Right, then we gotta figure out unfunded the 500,000.
But what Eric had said, and I think Ryan also confirmed it, that even if we are told that we didn't, that they encourage us to resubmit it again, because we might get it on the second round if we didn't get it on the first round.
Correct.
So we are going to follow through with that if we don't get it the first time.
Yes, unless the board gets too impatient and just says, let's just construct it. Like
Okay.
there is a chance for that.
Well, I will send it.
So the current unfunded amount is 1 million, or is it, don't we have 500,000
Yeah, we have-
for sitting
so-
there?
We have 500,000 unfunded, we have that as, so it just needs to be updated to say that 500,000 is unfunded,
Oh, okay.
is my understanding.
Is that right? It just needs to be updated. Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
Okay, so can we just kind of look, so these were the projects that we kind of, on this D, on the agenda, front of the agenda, I just kind of pulled out, like, these are the projects. So we always have the 2 police officer positions, we always have the animal control, we always have the debt service on the pickleball courts.
Right,
Those have to be set aside before we get to do anything fun with our money, right? And so when we budgeted last year, we budgeted for, in addition to those three kind of what I call pillars, they're not really pillars, we have more pillars than that, but we budgeted to finish the pickleball skate park complex, that's done. Then we budgeted for the Hall Park, and the only reason that we're waiting is because we're waiting on that grant award. And then budgeted for engineering costs for that Route 33 McWhorter Trail Connector project. We had budgeted for, what did we budget? We budgeted for, oh, I didn't put it on this one. I can't remember what our budget was for the Route 33 Connector Trail Engineering. We didn't think we were gonna have it all funded, but we actually do. We went out for bid, Shelley did the documents, she submitted them, and Olson is who got awarded the contract. And what we are actually going to be paying for engineering and design is $267,700. The board has already approved that, and they have already been out in the field working on, like, walking the project and surveying, and so that's really exciting. And then once that gets done, we'll be able to start construction. But we also, I want to remind you guys that we got a grant to fund 80% of the construction costs up to $600,000. So if our construction costs end up being way more than that, we can only get up to the greater of 80% of our construction costs or up to $680,000. That makes sense.
And as the project moves along, will you know at some point that you have to stop because you're going to go or not have the money to finish the project? I mean, how does that work?
We'll bid it out. So with the engineering plans,
Right.
once that design comes, then we take those plans, we put them out for people to give us construction bids.
Right,
They'll give us a price, and then we will know that.
that you have enough money because you're gonna pick the one, obviously, that you have enough funds to pay for. Okay,
Yes.
well, good.
Yeah. Okay, but then we got way more money than we expected to get. That's great. We made lots of promises to voters, lots of promises. And so if you look at what the board approved for the fiscal year 2025 budget, and that, you can see, I put that budget here on the page that looks like this. It's just black and white. It's after the blue banner one.
Yeah.
But you can see we bumped up our use tax revenue projection to $1.3 million. And then we think we're gonna start this year on April 1st. We think that we're gonna have $783,000 of unspent use tax money, like sitting in the bank, that we're then allocating in this during fiscal year 2025. The administrative fees, that formula is based on revenues. That's why that amount goes up. So as a fund has more money, more projects, more accounting services, more engineering services, more legal services, all of that, if that makes sense. So our administrative fees are always based on a formula that is a percentage of revenues, if that makes sense. So that's why that increased. And then we have money transferring to sidewalk and trails, to park projects, to public safety is the transfer to the general fund for the police officers. The animal control amount is the transfer to the general fund for the animal control officer salary and benefits. And then, of course, the debt service on the pickleball. And so those projects, this seemed like a really good idea, I think Friday night when I was working on your guys' agenda packet. packet. I was like, oh, they just care about the projects. And so I pulled those out, and those are what are on D.
I had a quick question on the
Yes.
budget. So you've got the department request and then the proposed budget. I'm assuming the proposed budget is what we're looking at, anticipating being the actual approved budget, because there's some, not huge variances, but, like under public safety, obviously, there's a $12,000 swing between what was requested versus what we're saying the proposed will be, which I fall in more in line with the proposed just based on the current year actuals. If you extrapolate that over a full year, will still actually come in less, but I understand with like inflation and the cost of benefits going up, like I can understand one side. I just wanted to make sure I'm looking at the appropriate columns and that are what we would see the budget, like what we would look to manage to would be the 1.2.
Yeah,
Line 2 at the bottom.
and the Board of Aldermen actually already approved this, but yes, it's the proposed budget that
Okay.
was what was
And that's
approved.
already, so you're saying that's good to
What
go.
was in the department request, just so you know, for
Mhm.
salaries and benefits, one of the Board of Aldermen's goals is to go to a higher level of loggers. So it's the city's retirement plan, and we are at a 1.5% multiplier. The most that you can do is 2%. And so every year, the mayor has me check with the state to find out what would the cost be to increase the loggers plan for all of our city employees. And so the cost of that, like I always start with what they want. We also, all city employees got a 3.5% COLA in this year's budget. This budget request, the department request, reflects, I think I tried to start with a 4.5%, but then we couldn't make everything balance. And so what ended up being proposed, like what we could afford is what's reflected in the proposed budget. So that's why there's a difference.
Yeah.
We tried to do more, and then we ended up, reducing that to where we could balance the budget, if that makes sense.
So they changed the loggers plan then?
They did not. We
Okay.
could not afford to do that this year.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, but every year I look at it, and every year I'm going to try, and someday I'm pretty confident we'll get it done. I'm very optimistic though, Larry.
Well, it doesn't get any less. I mean, that's,
That's the nice part, the
Right.
positive side. You're right, Larry.
I mean, one day, the market on our valuation date is going to be amazing. And when that market hits just right with our actuarial valuations, we're gonna be good to go. It's all timing.
Yes.
Okay, so we look at the projects that we're planning on doing in fiscal year 2025. So the Hall Park project, we just carried that over from fiscal year 2024. And then we have Lions Park, so this is new. Lions Park, they have mulch. And we've had a lot of, not a lot, but we've had citizens reaching out over the last year. And also the chamber really championing this, of that there are kids that are, it's not ADA accessible. It can be, but a pour-in-place playground, so soft surfacing that is flat, where not having to go over the wood chips and such. Any children from our community would be able to enjoy Lions Park and that playground. And right now, none of our playgrounds are accessible like that. And it makes sense that it's Lions Park over Jesse James Park, really, because we have the water park there, and when little kids running with bare feet, tracking mulch over into the water park. And so it's about $218,000. That's what the budget is, but the board thought it would be a good idea to use tax money for that project. And so that is included in the fiscal year 2025 budget. Then also in the fiscal year 2025 budget, carrying over the Mac Porter Connector Trail right here called Route 33 Trail Project. That is 100% fully funded. And we definitely always need to make sure that we're funding our parts of the grant match, like whenever it would be really bad to tell somebody, hey, thanks so much for offering us money and now we can't come up with our match. And so whenever we get a grant award, we really focus on making sure that we can meet that match.
I do have a question there. So if we do this, I'm assuming since it's already a project that's 2025, this 218,000 is coming from the use tax money. So let's say Hall Park, the grant goes through, we get our money. What's to continue this 218,000 from use tax if we're working on Hall Park? I mean,
So
where's the
we
money
already
gonna?
have, the money has already been transferred in this year's, in this fiscal year. We took $500,000 out of the use tax.
That I understand. I understand that.
And we put it in Hall Park.
I understand that.
And it's sitting in that park construction fund, and it's sitting there and it's not gonna leave
Okay.
until we spend it on Hall Park.
But where's the money gonna come from? I mean, I understand the Hall Park, the 500,000's there. Where are you pulling this $218,000 from? I know you said that it's gonna come from the use tax money, but where in here are you pulling it from?
From our existing,
So,
like our fund
do
balance,
you
like where we're
see-
sitting at, we started with.
See, Marie, where we're, like, so here we have transfers, so sidewalks and trails, and we're talking about the Mac Porter Connector Trail, or we're talking about the Pour in Place Playground?
The Pour in Place Playground,
Okay, so you can see in the budget that the board approved,
yes,
they have park capital projects
yes,
here, and see how there's a transfer to park construction,
yes,
$218,000.
that's where the money's coming from.
That's where the money's coming from use tax, but we're trying to track it in a capital project fund so that we can keep carrying that money over until it's used. So typically, like, the use tax was set up as an operating budget. And so typically you're going to spend money that's budgeted in operations. Capital projects, sometimes they continue on multiple years. Like Hall Park the Mac Porter Trail might take multiple fiscal years. So I'm used to, and this is how I've now set up our budget, where we are transferring to a capital project to keep that money safe, making sure when it stays in an operating budget, people like to start spending it.
Okay, that's my concern.
And we're not.
Okay.
That's why it's sitting over there. It is earmarked. It cannot be used for anything other than that project unless it comes back to the use tax fund to be reallocated towards something else.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm, yes,
Okay,
thank you.
yeah, exactly. Sorry, sometimes I think like an accountant instead of a human.
Layman.
Okay, so then the Route 33 trail project, I'm super excited. I did not think that we were gonna figure out a way to get that project fully funded until, like, I was looking forward to the fact that we had a couple of years to be able to come up with all that money. I'm so excited, like, not only did we fund this, but then we have more money to start funding other projects. So the Route 33 trail project is 100% funded. And then,
Could I add a little comment, Sheila, on that? So that grant money we got was fiscal year 26, so it wouldn't become available till 2025. But Shelley's going to be able to get the design done, and it might be possible that we could get an advance on that based on whether other projects in other cities follow a good timeline or not. So we'll at least be in a position where maybe we could do it quicker than the year that we're supposed to.
Thank you, David.
David, can we go ahead and do it and then just wait to be reimbursed?
That's probably a Shelley question.
Yeah.
I know MoDOT could do that, but I don't know if you could do that with LPA funds. I would
Okay,
have to check.
But you have done it.
Well, MoDOT could do it with their money, but I don't know if they could do it with Mark. Like, I just have to, because they could do PBACs, but I don't think they do it on LPA projects.
okay.
Sorry, Shelley, I didn't know you were there.
You asked me to come.
I have a little screen. It's really hard for me to see anybody other than who's in the big window, like
Yeah, the
Marie.
person that's running their mouth the whole time. She's really quiet over there. Okay, and this I think is where we wanted Shelley here, maybe. Is that right, David? Where we talk about the Pathways project. So we also put money, the Pathways project is really trying to fill in all those sidewalk gaps that we promised voters when the use tax was approved. And so that was named the Pathways project. And we put $25,000 in for engineering and design costs and $100,000 for total construction costs. It probably won't get it all done, but hopefully, and at some point after the design happens, we'll be able to bid it out and we'll kind of have an idea. But
Is this to cover all these proposals on this back page here, the Pathways project back here?
the ones that haven't been done yet. So
Right.
the Nation Road is completed. Is the Sandbar Drive one completed? No?
I could help with this. if you
Okay,
want.
perfect.
So on that map, there are 7 projects that are not funded or completed. So the 25,000, this is the amount of design, have somebody help us get out bids for all the short segments, which are, 3 of them are by the high school, which is labeled G, H, and J. And then there's one close to the Mac Porter, which is E. So those are just like a block or 2 of missing sidewalk segments. So those are minimal engineering, just like no surveying. It's just they're gonna put that when we're doing a different projects that's not use tax funded, to do a crosswalk from Lions Park over to Carney Shop. So we're gonna try to put those in that bid package.
Nice. I've been looking for that crosswalk.
Yeah, so that's our goal with those 4. And then also I'm gonna try to get some just very high-level engineering on the 3 remaining projects on the pathways, and it's named pathways because the use tax, that's what they named it. So that would be the Regency Park sidewalk, and the F, which is like from the senior living, just south of the senior center, there's a sidewalk, but getting across Dollar General down the major is going to be quite challenging. And then on Route 92, which pretty much goes from like, I think Mac Porter Park area, not park, but the apartments where that crosswalk, they're trying to get down to Clear Creek Drive before the Fishing River. That
I know what you're
so
talking
there'll be
about.
sidewalks down by the funeral home, that, so people could walk all the way up 92.
Nice.
And D is on here, but it's really kind of doubled up because D is also our Mac Porter.
Yeah, D is project 3 on this list.
Yep.
So it is funded
Yeah.
already. I wouldn't worry about that not being funded, because I think the money that they secured with the grant is a really nice sum of money for that trail, so.
And I know when we did the downtown walk audit, they had discussed potentially another crosswalk, not just up there by Dollar General, but down here across from Lions Park because of all the middle school traffic to the firehouse, stuff like that.
Yeah, that's what she was
That's
talking
the-
about
That's the
earlier.
one I was talking about.
Yeah.
Earlier, that we're gonna put these
Okay.
4
That's when I
short
said yes.
sidewalk segments in the bid package when we go out for that crosswalk.
Because in the summertime, when you watch the children coming out of that splash park, they're going over to Creamery to eat and trying to get across, and the woman's trying to hold on to all of her children, and very dangerous. So I'm glad to see that, definitely.
But we think 100,000 will get a majority of these completed.
No, it'll get the 4 short sidewalks completed, and there'll be funds left over for us to decide if we want to continue with more engineering for the 3 bigger projects that are remaining. Because those 2 on the state right-of-way they're pretty big projects, kind of like the Mac Porter Park. It's a pretty large project. So the goal is, with the $25,000, to get the engineering done for the little bitty parts, which is very minimal, but it's also to do some preliminary engineering so we could put in for another grant this round for the other 3 remaining section.
Okay, well, I'm not trying to sound cold, I'm just saying, we allotted $100,000 for what we promised the voters we wanted to spend this money on, and then we've turned around and we've taken $218,000 and put it towards a park project that, you know, we didn't sell to anyone. So that, I don't mind doing it, I'm just saying in terms of prioritization and what we owe to people, that's where, like, I would be kind of a little bit, like, if we had 318,000 to go and work on these crosswalk projects, how much further does that advance those priorities within the year?
So what we're really trying to do is we're trying to get the preliminary engineering done so that we can leverage the use tax money by getting grant matches, so we can make the use tax money go further. So first we have to do the engineering, then we have to do a grant submission, like we have to try to get the awards. So we need to slow that down a little bit in order to be able to make good use of that. Does that make sense, what we're trying to do? Because these, so Project C, Project F, and Project A, those are the ones that we are trying to leverage our dollars for the following fiscal year and hopefully get grant awards.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So we're doing E, we're doing G, we're doing H, and doing J with that $100,000. And then we're trying to then get federal funds to be able to help pay for F, C, and I.
And then what about L? Where does L fall into?
L
That's
was
the-
done.
L's done.
It's the,
No, it's not. It's not, I live right by it, and I wish it were done. I've seen so many kids almost get killed there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
the only reason I'm saying this is
yeah.
because,
the L is, hold on.
There are some crosswalks on 19th Street, but there is not one where this is depicting it.
Okay.
This is depicting it across from the pickleball court, and then it looks like kind of,
Thanks for clarifying that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I need to look at those.
Where is
We could
it?
add that to the
Yeah.
same application.
so the two here, I mean, to me, it looks like it's the crossing right by the pickleball court, you know, well, it's a little bit,
It's a trail
what is that,
crossing.
west of the pickleball court? What?
It's the trail crossing.
yeah,
Yeah, the trail
Oh, the
crossing.
trail crossing.
And then
Yeah.
also, is it white? It looks like to me like it's also the white gates across to the trail. That's
Yeah.
where those two.
Stone Lake Drive crossing and at Meadow Lane.
yep. The only reason that I bring this up is because obviously just kind of what she mentioned is those are high priority items and they've only become even more critical given the fact that we've opened up the interchange. And I mean, so I take my son to Hawthorne every day. I can vouch for the level of traffic that's coming through there. It's not one of those like, yeah, let's wait. Like that's, to me, that's one of those like, yeah, it's just a matter of time. Like if we don't get that sorted, that we get to have our names in the papers for, you know, not the good reasons.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm thinking of
I
if we can
hear you.
prioritize other funds and not
Sure.
wait for, you know, grants on that
And
stuff.
right now, we're in a weird situation where there's a lot of federal money out there, and we have a really, really good chance of being able to get grant funds. And if we can get those grant funds to make the use tax money go even further, and I hear you, like, that you're saying, like, no, this
Yeah.
is life safety.
Like I said, my biggest deal is just trying to keep us aligned with why this whole thing got passed, because there's been a lot of bad publicity, a lot of negative opinions over other things that have passed, and they don't feel like the city has, you know, used those funds properly. And so I don't want this to be another throwing stone for people to go out there and come at us, you know, over like, we didn't properly, you know, use this stuff like we wanted to.
Prioritize.
Yep.
I could look at those crosswalks. Well, that's probably mine. I live right there, but my brain just saw Stonecrest.
Mhm.
That's where I live, like, right. And so I thought those were the two that were just put up.
No, yeah,
Yeah,
there was two more east, put
Yeah.
up, more east of
that's where my
there.
brain went.
So maybe we could get those two crosswalks for the engineering when you do these other ones? Is that what you were saying? Like add it
We
to
could
the
definitely talk about it and look into that.
GHJ thing?
Is it-
Even if we have to take money out of the construction to add more for engineering.
Because we're doing the crosswalk already on Route 33, so it might be,
Yeah, maybe.
consider doing that together.
Is there a possibility of getting grants to help us fund this $218,000 resurfacing thing?
No,
Okay.
there's lots of transportation money out there right now. And transportation isn't a playground. It is sidewalks, it's trails, it's streets. And knowing that, and knowing how much money there is available out there, like we're just trying to leverage the funds that we have to make them stretch further by going after federal. I mean, if you're talking about an 80-20 grant, like we're only having to pay 20% of it. If we can get the other 80% of construction, like we can do more projects.
So when is it that we're thinking these will all be done then?
Well, the engineering, like, when are you, is it in April? When do we have to submit? What was that plan?
The first application, like they do a 2-phase process down at Mark, and so the first application is due April 4th. And then Mark does their thing to see how aligned it is with the plan. So it's a lot more than sidewalks, it's like streets and congestion. And then they have another round 2, but they're not gonna make a decision until next January down at the Mark board. So that's the decision making. But my goal is to put in an application that covers everything we're missing, instead of just trying to do Regency. Like we could possibly get a grant that would help us pay for all 3 of the big projects, which 2 of them are on state routes, which complicates things a little bit more on cost. They cost more. Like when we added the sidewalk on 92, that was with Mark money and MoDOT. You know, they just have different rules and things cost more on state highways. And it's going to be more right-of-way costs too on those. If you look at the right-of-way by Dollar General and those homes. So we're going to be buying land possibly. So I think those are going to be costly, so I would really recommend trying to get grants. They have new programs for congestion, and 50% of those are dedicated for sidewalk jobs, so they have 2 programs. So they got like $34 million is dedicated for these type projects. And with all this planning the city's done, it helps it score better because it's went through a public process to get this plan.
We have a really good chance. Like, and if we can get grants, they're going to get done way faster than if we don't try to get grant money. And
So have we already applied for this grant money?
They just put out the call on the 29th for projects, and so it's just opened up to apply.
so the very first application's due April 4th, you just said?
Well, it's just a minimal, it's kind of an intent on what you're applying for with some high level. And so then they see how well your projects align. But on pretty much all sidewalk jobs align well. That's really more for the street projects, because some cities just want to go out a bunch of lanes, and that doesn't align well with Mark's plan. So it just takes them, like, I think, hundreds of applications to go and score them all. It's a long process. I'm impatient, so I think it's a very long process, but I think these projects, these last 3 are going to be pretty costly. And so if you do them one at a time,
It'll be years, decades,
it'll take a long time.
without grant funds.
The most we could do is continue with design, knowing that we're going to have to fund them eventually. We could look at design funds.
And the timing is just really good right now because of all of the federal money that's out there.
For transportation.
Yes, and it's not typically like, I mean, yes, there's money, but like Kearney has a real shot of being awarded. We're a small fish, so sometimes we just get fed crumbs. like, we actually have a good shot at it. And
It was that way when we did the first trials here in town. Grant money was 80/20. And that's how we built all those first trails. We wouldn't have had them without that. It was a slow process, but it was worth it.
And all these projects are gonna be funded except for the sidewalks, so that we know that the money is going to be there for the match, the 20% match, and we have a shot of getting them all done. Like, I don't know that, what was your guys' thoughts when during the use tax campaign, how long would it take for all of the things to happen and come to fruition? What was your guys' expectation?
Well, I think you have to be realistic. You knew it wouldn't happen within a year, but you were hoping that it would be sooner than later. But I guess I didn't anticipate us having to apply for grants that was gonna put a pause. But I understand what you're saying, but I also understand the seriousness of something happens. What do we say to the newspaper? Well, we were waiting for grant money.
Well, I think Shelley was saying that she, like, a crosswalk, she can probably get that done within the $100,000.
Yeah, the two
We're
projects
talking
are
about all of, like, the A projects.
Right.
The F, I called them A. That's why I labeled them. You guys would not put A next to yours. But I put an A with a circle by F, I, and C.
So do I understand correctly, Shelley? Then you're not saying that we can't get started on those crosswalks, which is a really big concern. We can start on those crosswalks? Is that what I heard?
I mean, Sheila, I just work for Sheila. It's like, I'm pretty new here, so, I'm not my old hat, I would say absolutely.
So if we
But
can ask, so we just need to take some of the money out of the construction to be able to increase our engineering, because all of this stuff has to be engineered, right? And so she has $25,000 that she was planning on asking the engineers to do the engineering to be able to get us far enough to be able to apply for grants, plus the engineering for these little projects. On my sheet, I called them X. I know you guys don't have them, but they're E, G, H, and J. And so now you guys are saying, and L, right? Is there another one?
19th Street, yes.
It was just L.
L, I think, counts for those two Cs on 19th Street.
Okay, the two Cs. L counts for the two Cs.
Well,
Okay.
I mean, that's how I read it, but I guess I
It
don't know.
does. You're right.
Question, so our Nation Road, kind of like the selling point of the sidewalk project that we've already completed, I can't remember, what was our all-in cost there? Because that was a pretty substantial
I
size
think we can
input,
actually
right?
tell that by looking at this budget sheet,
Okay.
maybe.
Because one thing I think of is like, if we get started on Hall Park, we get that grant, we get that money going and everything like that. This is this year, and I understand like making our money go further, but then like next year, we should have a substantial amount, like if we've already committed the funds this year and we don't have to commit another 500,000 in the budget, we should have a substantial amount of money that opens back up again, is not a budget line item for commitment
Yeah.
for this kind of stuff, to where, like, again, I completely, no one's gonna dissuade me from wanting to get free money. My deal is just a prioritization to make sure that we uphold our promise, and then also at the same time, a prioritization to keep in line with the way Kearney's growing. Because like I said, the interchange opening up, it is extremely popular, and it's made 19th Street extremely popular. And whenever you have a direct route to the interstate flowing straight into, I would argue, probably the major artery of Kearney now. I mean, we've got 3392 here, and then we've got 19th Street. To me, those are like the two major hubs. So like whatever we can do, focusing on those priorities for safety and building out any projects that we've identified around those areas, to me is how we would need to go around prioritizing these projects. I understand, like, if $100,000 is not gonna touch one of the major projects, by all means, yes, spend it to get some of this other small stuff done, but at the same time, to me, a lot of the stuff that I see around 19th Street, other than Regency Drive, doesn't look terribly big. I mean, I don't know what you guys think, but it's hard to tell from a drawing,
Right.
Which
I don't
projects?
necessarily know.
Don't look, which projects don't look terribly good?
GLH, I mean, C looks like it's gonna be a substantial project, and I think that's what you guys have indicated as well.
Yeah.
But I also think, correct me if I'm wrong, is C in kind of line with what we had to anticipate for Nation Road? That's my question is, do we have like a good estimate of
That's
what
what
we would
this,
be looking at all in?
that's what the 25,000 is, because we need an opinion of probable cost, and we don't have that. And so they'll be able, with that 25, I'll know about what those projects cost.
Okay.
And that's gonna go pretty quick. It's just a quick study.
Yeah.
I think also the difference is going to be right of way,
It will
right?
be.
Like, so with Nation Road, like getting right of way was gonna be way easier than Regency Drive. Like,
There's a lot of homes.
there's a lot of homes that you're gonna have to go by. That sidewalk was built already in right of way, I'm guessing, right, David? Nation Road?
Yes, it was in right away already.
So you're talking about negotiating with homeowners and trying to, like, it's, we can't just go do it, like, it's big. But the Nation Road project, if you look up on this budget sheet, you can see it. It's the 121,958 in fiscal year 2023. That is a much less expensive project than your Regency Drive project's going to be.
And F is gonna be very challenging because the way the parking lot is for Dollar General and how the ditches are for drainage.
Right.
Like even figuring out how to get a sidewalk in there, negotiating with the corporate, like anytime you negotiate with some of the corporations, it's just a little bit more difficult, and so that's gonna be challenging. I think I might be less challenging, but it's gonna be costly.
And you think it would be just
I
the
don't know,
opposite?
like if necessarily I just think, I don't
Which one?
see a lot of people walking around and kind of the eye around Merrimack, of course.
Yes. Yeah, it's just this fact that it's on the
Lady,
state
do you
right
want a
away and
water?
the drainage and
Do you
that.
want a water?
Yeah.
So there might be some walls and stuff that MoDOT.
Yeah.
But I was saying, I think that you would think the corporations would be more accommodating because you're improving it, you're making it better for, not only for their traffic, but foot traffic. You would think it would be welcome, because then it wouldn't be, well, I don't know that for sure, that nothing would come out of their pocket.
I was gonna say, I would assume that they're gonna be very supportive of
Yeah,
of that
I would-
project, just
I would
because
think
it's gonna
so.
Well, it's
increase
not the
their-
local
their
stuff
Foot
you're
traffic,
negotiating
yes.
with, you're negotiating with their corporate office. Like on Kansas Street and Liberty, they did sidewalks all the way through there. the city of
Yes.
Liberty from 291, and they had to negotiate like Chick-fil-A, CVS, and you just think, oh, this is gonna help their business, but you're not working with the franchise owners and the locals, you're
Well,
working.
the best thing is we don't have franchise owners here, we've just got a couple of local ones, so.
Well, they were with them, but I don't know what their agreement is. You just have to follow all the traffic rules sometimes too, whenever you're on MoDOT, it's just different.
the building.
Yeah. I mean, there's always a possibility, after we figure out how much money it costs to do the design sidewalks and pay for the sidewalks that we're talking about doing, what's left, we could talk about moving forward with some design, because we're gonna have to pay the design no matter if we get a grant or not.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
Thanks.
we definitely are trying to leverage, and I hear you, life safety, that's,
Right.
that, we're not trying to leverage with somebody's life. We're just, so if it's life safety, yes, let's bump it up. And then the last project was we called it Downtown Streetscapes. It's planning for, the goal is to spend $15,000 on engineering and design so that we can apply for a planning for sustainable, is that right? Planning for sustainable places grant?
It is, but one of the goals there too is to continue, like looking at a way to get the trail continue down 33.
towards downtown.
Yeah, and then like through downtown, like how we're gonna get it through, like south of there. Like, so it doesn't just stop at the senior center, like how do we continue it south?
Yeah.
So it's also just enough high-level study or look out to be able to put in a grant. For a study, that'll show us some things when they do them.
I'm sorry to go back to the pathways one. One last
Yes.
question. Is there a crosswalk, I'm gonna say where like the trail, it's not quite to Regency, but you know how the trail crosses over right before the railroad tracks? Is there a crosswalk there?
There is,
Like, I mean, a crosswalk that like flashes?
no,
Yeah, I mean, because there is, you know, these Cs, when I'm saying we want crosswalks, I think we're picturing like the flashing lights ones that are up further on east on 19th Street. So I don't know. I mean, I just wanted to bring that point too. I don't drive past that as much, but I mean, you'd think that'd be even busier because
No, it is. I mean, especially at night, it's kind of a sketchy situation. But at the end of the day, my biggest deal is just making sure that we, you know, uphold our promise, prioritize our items, and like I said, just when I look at this map of, you know, what we have that works, to me, I mean, I understand we need to consider all the residents of Kearney, but I can about guarantee you that in this section down here, 80% of the population is going to be active at one point or another within their work week or within their week in general. So that's why, like, I just look at it as, you know, where we should prioritize our funds and stuff like that. And like I said, I'm not opposed to, you know, leveraging them for parks, and I understand we're just an oversight committee at the end of the day, but for me, it's just one of those deals where if an extra 218,000, because if we said Nation Road cost us 120 grand, it seems to me like we can accelerate a lot of these other pathways projects with an additional 200 grand.
And so, yes, except that we're accelerating all the little ones, right? Like, all that's gonna be left for going forward are the great big ones, C, F, and I. Because we thought that L was already taken care of, is that
yeah, that was,
right?
it is not.
I know it's not.
Oh,
Good,
okay.
good to
That's
know.
really,
But I'm just saying, do we want to add, what I was trying to say, I'm sorry, was, do we want to add a flashing light? Or I'm just putting on the table to be considered, that we're adding all these flashing lights everywhere on 19th Street where the trail crosses over. I think we should do that one too. That's what I was trying to just bring that up. I didn't, but obviously I'm not making the decisions. I'm just saying,
Mary Kay, are you saying in fiscal year 2025, like that would be your wish, which that's what we're getting ready to start, April 1st through March 31st, 2025, so it's our fiscal year 2025. Are you saying for the following year?
I'm just saying in general, when we're talking about, I thought you said we were gonna group these Ls, we we're gonna try to group them with the small projects, right? The G, H, J, E. I was just bringing to attention that maybe there's another crosswalk on 19th Street that should be considered too. That's it.
So outside of Project L, we would have M.
Yeah, I mean,
the-
I just didn't know if anybody had even considered that, and it looked like,
Yes,
Yeah.
staff has already been talking about that crosswalk.
okay.
And it wasn't on here, and either was the Porn Place Playground. So,
And then quick question would be like, so C, because we're talking about like this being an enhanced sidewalk compared to what we currently, you know, have, which I don't think, I can't remember, Regency, we don't have that sidewalk there, right? Correct?
correct.
Nothing, yeah.
But do we have any sentiment from homeowners? Like, hey, how would you feel? Like, I mean, are we just assuming that for sure, no matter what we're going to run into, like, we're gonna have to pay them for portions of their property?
I
all the way
would
down
love it
there?
if they would volunteer to donate it, right? I don't know, and you know, here's the problem. Like, we have to have all the homeowners on one side of the street all agree. Because, like, yeah, maybe we can go all the way down the street, but you can't have a sidewalk where we have people crisscrossing. We're gonna have to pick one side of the street, and we're gonna have to go down on that side of the street.
Right.
Like, You know, it's tricky.
Before we would talk to the property and we would want to have the plans, you know, and. like,
Right, yeah,
Have,
yeah.
like,
I just
Show
want
what
to,
kind
like,
of
if we have the
easement.
ability to accelerate those plans, I would love to accelerate that work. Because just from what you've mentioned yourself in terms of all of the working with homeowners, it sounds to me like I don't want to wait for that to start. I would rather that starts now and get those plans kind of, in the works drawn up, because it sounds to me like it's going to take a lot of lead time for negotiations or stuff like that. But I mean, Regency to me is almost as important as, 19th Street, stuff like that, because I mean, you drive down that, there's tons of kids,
Yep.
I don't know. I don't want to sound like a broken record and just keep going kid. I just don't want to, if we have that ability, and this is kind of what we passed this for, is to make this, safer. I just want to make sure that we're prioritizing that, and that's, been noted that that's at the forefront of our committee's thoughts, so.
Yes. Understood.
Those people voted against sidewalks when we took a vote one time. Were you on the board at that time, Lori? We wanted to put sidewalks down Regency, and so we decided to poll the residents, and it was a huge unanimous no.
Well,
There's some change in ownership probably now.
Probably a
through
little
there,
bit,
but
yes.
not a lot, because those houses don't change ownership very fast.
We'll try though.
Yeah.
That's all we're asking.
Okay, that was a lot of information.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, we're gonna set the next, no more questions. I don't have any more questions.
Okay.
I think we made it well known that the priorities, the concerns, business crosswalks,
Yes,
big crosswalks, yes,
yes.
big concern. Okay.
Do you guys want to talk about when you want to meet next?
yeah, absolutely.
When would you like to meet next?
When did we decide? Every 6 months, every 3 months?
It's every quarter, right?
Every
Yeah.
quarter?
Mhm.
Okay. So we're talking June?
Which would also give us, when do we get the payments for the use tax?
We get the payments before the 10th day of each month. So the state collects it all, and then they give us a distribution, usually around the 7th of the month.
Because we would have April, May, June, so if we met later in June, we would have 3 months, we would have a quarter's worth of revenues to be able to analyze and extrapolate where we feel the year would run out at. Like if we waited until having the meeting until later in June after the payment's been received.
You're
That's-
just looking to see if we're trending towards budget?
Right, well, yeah, because I mean, depending on when we have our meeting, we might have 2 months worth of payments versus 3, which I know at the bare minimum, when in forecasting, budgeting, stuff like that, bare minimum, we need 3 months worth of payments. I mean, you want to have as much data as possible, but that's why I'm thinking, like, if we wait until later in June, then we would have that, we would know what that June amount was, so we would know what our first 3 months were, and it'd help better extrapolate kind of where we plan to hit for the year. I mean, still not perfect, but it would, give us a better picture, more complete picture.
Sure.
So that I would assume like later in June, like,
Okay, I'm gonna run and take a quick picture of the calendar that's
Yeah,
in that
yeah,
room
by
with
all
all the
means.
meetings on it. I'll be right back, sorry.
what do you guys
It's a
think?
good plan.
Sounds good to me.
Okay. So, we could meet the last week of June, if you would like.
On a Tuesday night,
You could do on a Tuesday night, because,
and that's the 25th.
yep.
Anybody have vacation plans?
Mhm.
I don't see anything as of now, so.
I'm on vacation that week. This is Adam.
Adam, you're on vacation, okay? Okay, so the week before that, we have a Board of Aldermen meeting on Monday, a Park Board meeting on Tuesday, and Wednesday is Juneteenth, and so it's a city holiday. So if you wanted to do it the week before, you could do the 20th. I don't think we should meet on a Friday.
Yeah, no,
Oh, we have. No, okay, good. It shouldn't be. June 20th
Is it Thursday?
is a Thursday. Does that work for?
yeah, I mean, as of right now.
Yep, works for me.
Okay. Would you guys like to meet early again? Was tonight too early?
Not for me.
Hmm?
Marquette?
No, nope.
I mean,
fine,
yeah, so given this much
Adam, is
advance
this
notice,
time
it's good to
good?
make it work.
Yep, this works for me.
5:30 PM on
Larry?
Thursday, June 20th.
Yep.
I will send out a calendar invite tomorrow sometime. Just so you guys can have it all.
Yeah, thank you.
And,
Let's see, what else did you have? Comments?
do you guys have any comments?
Good meeting.
All right.
Appreciate everyone's time.
Yeah, I
Thank you.
appreciate your guys' time too. Thanks for volunteering to do this. A thankless job, I know, but it's nice feedback.
Good.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, dear.
Jamie, thank you. And you know what?